we're going to be talking about the law of cosines. And so we're going to look at how we know which we're going to be using, either law of sines, law of cosines, how we're going to use those, and different things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into the notes. Okay, so just a little reminder of some basic rules of triangles. So in any triangle, the sum of the lengths of any two sides must be larger than the length of the third side. Okay, so now law of cosine. So some of you guys may remember this from geometry, but we have listed here 3 different ones. Basically, you really only need to know one of them, as long as you know that the side that is over here has to be opposite the angle that you're taking the cosine of. And then the order of B and C don't matter. And so even if you're given different sides and you're not looking for A, that's where these other 2 equations come from. Now, while we're talking about these equations, there is, we can take one of these equations, so I'll take this top equation, and because there will be times where you're actually looking for the angle using law of cosine. And so instead of every single time plugging in the information in and then simplifying, we can come up with a formula that we can use. So I'm going to switch the negative to BC cosine A and then A squared. So then I get a positive 2BC cosine of A equals B squared plus C squared minus A squared. And so again, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want a formula that focuses on the angle rather than the side. And so then I can divide by 2BC, so then I get cosine of A equals B squared plus C squared minus A squared all over 2BC. And then the last thing that we would have to do to solve for our angle would be to take cosine inverse of all of this. So this is a very important formula that will be very helpful with law of cosines. And so that's if we're looking for the angle. The other thing is if we're looking for the side, we're going to use that A equals the square root of B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. And so again, just reiterating, this is the side and the angle, so the side opposite the angle that's given. And then for this one, we're going to be finding the angle, and then we just have to be sure that this negative A squared is the side opposite of the angle that we're looking for. Okay, so let's get to how we know when we use what. So if we have our side angle angle or angle side angle, this we are going to use our angle sum formula. And so basically with this is just using the fact that looks awful. Let me rewrite that. So this is just using the fact that angle A plus angle B plus angle C equals 180. And so then we would have all three of our angles, and then to find the remaining side, we would do law of sines. Then if we have our SSA, so that's what we talked about in 7.2, our ambiguous case. And so this we would use law of sines to find our other angle. And then we would use the angle sum to find our third angle. And then to find our last side, we would use law of sine. Okay, so when we use law of cosines is when we know side angle side, so we know two of our sides and only one of our angles. So then to find our third side, we use law of cosines. And so if we're finding our third side, we're going to be using that a equals the square root of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. If my pen will write. So we find our third side using law of cosines. Then we find the smaller of the two angles using law of sines. And then we use the remaining angle. To find the remaining angle, we do our angle sum. Okay, and so then if we're given all three sides of our triangle, we are first going to use the law of cosines to find the largest angle. And so the largest angle, just a couple notes with this, the largest angle is going to be opposite the largest side. And then this is also whenever we're going to use that formula that we came up with, that A equals cosine inverse of b squared plus c squared minus a squared. All over 2bc. So that's how we find our largest angle. Then we use law of sines to find either one of our other angles, and then our angle sum to find our remaining angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to this example. So again, best thing to do is draw our triangle with what we know. So we have A, B, C. You know the angle A is 42.3 degrees. Side B is opposite angle B, and this is 12.9. And then side C, which is opposite angle C, is 15.4. And so in this case, we have a side angle side situation. So this is where we're going to use law of cosine to find our third side, law of sines to find the larger of the two angles, and then our angle sum. So first thing we want to do is find side A. So then this is going to be A equals the square root of 12.9 squared plus 15.4 squared minus 2 times 12.9 times 15.4 times the cosine of 42.3. And so then what I like to do, I just plug all of this into my calculator. You need to be sure that you have the proper parentheses and that you enter everything in correctly. But if you do that, then you get that A equals 10.47 meters. And now I want to find the smaller of the two sides. And so the smaller of the two sides is going to be side B. So we're going to do sine of B over 12.9 equals sine of 42.3 over our side that we just found, 10.47. And so then we get that sine of B is equal to 12.9 times sine of 42.3 all over 10.47. And so we get that because we can just multiply both sides by 12.9. And then that would just go to our numerator. And so then the last thing that we need to do is take the sine inverse. And so again, you can type all of this into your calculator. Be sure that if you have an older version of your calculator, you have to have an extra set of parentheses around your numerator. So we would type all of that into our calculator and we get that B is equal to 56.0. So we have that B is equal to 56.0. A was 42.3. So then angle C is going to be 180 minus, we want to add 56 to 42.3. And then subtract 180 from that. So we get that C is 81.7 degrees. So we have our two missing angles and our missing side. For our next one, we're given side A, B, and C. So again, if we draw this out, A, B, C, A is across from A, so 9.47. B is across from B, 15.9. C is across from C, so 21.1. Now, C will not always be your biggest side and angle, but in this case it is. So we're going to start with C because it's our biggest, our largest angle. Because it's opposite the largest side of 21.1. And so this is where we're going to use that formula that we came up with above. So in this case, it'll be C, because that's the angle that we're looking for, is equal to cosine inverse of A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2AB. And so again, this angle has to be opposite the side that we are subtracting. So when we go to write this out, we get that C equals cosine inverse of 9.47 squared plus 15.9 squared minus 21.1 squared. all over 2 times 9.47 times 15.9. Again, if you have an older calculator, you have to be sure that you have a parentheses around your numerator and your denominator, or else it will not come out to be the correct answer. But you should get that C is equal to 109.9. And then it doesn't really matter which angle we do next. So I'm just going to do angle A. So if I do sine of A over 9.47 equals sine of 109.9 over 21.1. Then we get that sine of A is equal to 9.47 times the sine of 109.9 all over 21.1. So then A is equal to sine inverse of that. And so then we get that angle A is equal to 25.0. And so then B, so we have what A and C are. So then angle B is going to be 180 minus the sum of these two. So B equals 45.1 degrees. So that's our side, side, side. Now for our next problem, we have a bearings problem. So we're going to draw this out. We have that airports A and B are on the east-west line and are 450 kilometers apart. A pilot flew from A to C. And then the pilot flew 359 kilometers on a bearing of 128.40 degrees. So the reminder, that means that this angle is 128.40. Now, we want this to be side angle side, so that way we can use our law of cosines, because there's no way of us knowing the full angle of angle C. So what helps us is that if we draw, this is our north, south, and east, west. So we know that this is 90, which means that this angle has to be 38.40. And then if you remember, we have parallel lines. So then this angle would also be 38.40. Okay, so then we have side angle side. And the thing is, we want to know the distance from A to C. Well, this is side B. So we're going to use our law of cosines, and then that's all we have to do. So B equals the square root of 359 squared plus 450 squared minus 2 times 359 times 450 times the cosine of 38 degrees 40 seconds, 40 minutes. So you would type all of that into your calculator, and then be sure that you remember to do the degrees and minutes. And so you should get that B is 281.3 kilometers. Okay, so then that is all for our examples. So then I want you to try first one where you're given side C is equal to, or sorry, angle C is 45.6 degrees. Side B is 8.94 meters. And side A is 7.23 meters. And number 2, where side A is 9.3, side B is 5.7, and side C is 8.2. So that is all for our notes today. Have a great day.